I returned a lost wallet last night and the owner accused me of stealing it. What's your worst no good deed goes unpunished story? Reddit. Found a cell phone in the middle of the street. Nobody was around, so I figured I should check the contacts to find out who owns. Figured home was a safe bet. I call and start talking after they pick up, only to be torn apart by the owner's mom, who thinks that I've stolen it. Apparently the phone was lost the day before and they were looking. Anyways, the dude who owned it gave me $30 for returning it and $10 for dealing with his mom. So, my good deed was punished, but I got a reward for being punished? Kyle's mom is a bee. In line at 7-Eleven behind an elderly woman. She pays for her things and leaves. There's a banana sitting on the counter. Cashier looks up and calls out, "Miss, your banana." But she doesn't hear. I bolt after her and catch up quickly. "Hey, I think you left your banana inside." She turns to me and glares. "I didn't want the banana, you little crap," and continues walking away. I found a dog, pit bull, wandering in my neighborhood along a busy street. I hopped out of my car and put my dog's spare collar on him to keep him from being hit. I walked to all the nearby houses and knocked on the doors asking if anybody belongs to the dog or if they knew who did. After about 10 houses I gave up and took him home. That afternoon I made found dog flyers, without the dog's picture, about 100 in all, and put the up around the area. In front of my house I put a big one so people would know that this was the place. After a few days I had pretty much resigned myself to keeping the guy when I got a phone call. The lady gave a perfect description of the dog and I told her she could swing by and pick him up. About an hour later she shows up, with the cops. She gets out of her car and greets me with, "Are you the butthole that stole my dog?" I was of course taken aback. I stood there with a slack jaw not knowing what to say. "I asked you a question. Did you steal my dog?" "What? No. I found a dog and tried to find his home. You stole him and I have witnesses." She then tried to get the officer to arrest me. It only took a few moments for the officer to realize she was crazy. "So he stole your dog, asked all your neighbors who the dog belonged to, put up signs saying he had the dog, and then invited you over to take the dog back? Either he's the worst criminal in the world or you don't understand the definition of stole, ma'am." She then claimed I stole the dog for the reward money. The officer said he didn't see an offer for a reward, nor did I ask for one. But just out of curiosity, "How much reward money were you going to offer?" asked the officer. $200. That's what he wants. That's why he took the dog. Well, we have no evidence of him stealing the dog, but it seems to me that he's earned the reward money. Worst $200 I ever earned. I found a wallet outside on a patio by the smokers area at a bar one time. So, as a smoker, I just hung out outside and asked everyone that came back out if they lost their wallet. One girl was like, "OMG, I did." I asked her to describe it. She did, and I pulled it out and she was like, You took my freaking wallet." I said no, it was sitting on that bench right there. Figured it was better if I try to find the owner than just let it sit there on a busy Friday night. She said I have every right to call the cops. I just said wow, try to do a nice thing for someone, and threw her wallet into the parking lot and went back inside the bar. Used to work for Walmart. Not once did a good deed go unpunished. If ever I found a wallet purse I would carry it by the corner at arm's length, and open it looking for an ID while under a camera, still keeping it at arm's length. That way when they accused me of stealing, which I never would, there was plenty of video coverage to protect me. Same with cell phones. I would look for a contact mom or dad first. If I couldn't find one I would check recent calls, but I would always handle the thing like plutonium. Late to the party here, but lifeguards of Reddit will get me on this one. I managed a pool for 10 years. It had a zero depth area, where the water gets gradually deeper, like a beach. This was also the area with all the kiddie toys. Parents would send their toddlers out there on their own, while they chatted, read, sunbathed, etc. The thing was like a succubus for toddlers, and 3 or 4 of them would go under daily, resulting in my guards or me going in and saving the lives of these children, lest they see Davy Jones' locker. The parents basically thought we were babysitters and didn't give a dang about their children while they were swimming. At least once a week, I would have to deal with some parent flipping out about how their kid was fine and we had no right to touch them. Threats were made about cops and lawyers. Luckily we always had a patrolman on duty at our pool. He would laugh in their faces and threaten to arrest them for neglect, which usually shut them up. Once, one of my 98-pound female lifeguards saved 2 kids at the same time. Her reward, a smack across the face from an irate mother. I've never seen a cop react so fast. I miss that job. TLDR. Watch your freaking kids while they're at the pool. Hey, Davy Jones doesn't have jurisdiction over freshwater. I was on the bus and noticed some guy on his BlackBerry. Dozed off for a few minutes and woke up and noticed the guy left his phone on the bus. I picked it up and tried to find a number in it I could call to let him know I had it. Checked his Facebook and saw he updated his status from home saying some thug on the bus robbed him. He also said how horrible people are in Los Angeles. How it's a city filled with thieves and crap. I updated his status correcting him and letting him know I had it and that I could send it to him. He emailed me his address and I mailed it to him. He didn't even send a thank you email back. Guy was a prick. Stop a man beating a woman at a bar. Instead the woman started to hit me along with the guy. Then at the end the man beat the woman again saying he didn't need her help. You're a hero. Until she realizes what's going to happen when you leave. Never get involved in a domestic dispute. Same thing happened to my dad 20 years ago. I live in an area with fairly low priced rentals, so it's full of college kids and people who are of lower incomes. I was at the corner store and the family in front of me had a case of beer, a 12-pack of Coke, a few packs of cigarettes, chicken nuggets, macaroni and cheese, and some milk. Their debit card got denied, so they took out the milk. Got denied again, took out the chicken. Got denied again, took out the mac and cheese. Finally got approved, so they were going home with beer, Coke, and cigs. Their 2 kids, maybe 4 and 6, asked what they were having for dinner if they didn't have the chicken nuggets. The mom's response was, "You can drink Coke. It's got calories." The younger kid started crying for the chicken nuggets. The mom grabbed her by the arm and told her she wasn't getting any dinner. I bought their chicken nuggets and ran after them. I tried to give them the box, and the mom started screaming at me. Do we look like a freaking charity case? I can raise my own freaking kids. You don't know what it's like being a mom and tons of other bulls. I was like, just take the goddamn chicken. Your kids are hungry. The woman hit the box out of my hands and she and her man grabbed the kids and stormed away. I wish I'd followed them and called CPS or something. At least you tried. Can't say I'm surprised that someone who would trade food for their kids for beer would act any other way. So I was outside this fast food place that sold hot dogs. I saw a homeless woman with a shopping cart trying to come out of the joint. She was struggling to open the door, so I did the gentleman thing and held the door open for her. I don't know if that hobo was on crack or what, but she started yelling at me, telling me that she didn't need any help and told me to frick off. I let go of the door, smacked her right in the face. Love the happy ending to this one. I went shopping for a Halloween party with 2 friends from work. At the grocery store, one of the girls lost her wallet. We tore my car apart looking for it, went back in the store and looked everywhere. We never found it. 2 days later I was back on that side of town and I decided to go in and check for it in Lost and Found. We all lived pretty far from that store, and she had no means of transportation. Someone had found it, so they let me take it to return to her. Well, she wasn't too excited when I showed up at work with it. She was acting weird. I guess she and the other friend decided I was playing her the whole time. Like I was hiding it so I could be the hero and return it to her. Lesson learned. I was at a bar in Boston and noticed there was a backpack under my table. I open it to find a new MacBook Pro and a few architecture books with a Northeastern College sticker on it. I went through the items looking for a name or some sort of way to identify the owner but found nothing. I really didn't want to give this to the bouncer because I knew it would probably disappear. But after about 30 I turned it into the bartender who put it behind the bar. Fast forward an hour later and this girl comes through the door, walks over to where I was and starts looking all around. Just keeps saying where is my backpack over and over. I say hey, I just gave it to the bartender. Saying nothing she pushes my girlfriend out of the way and rushes to the bar demanding her backpack. Bartender turns it over, then she opens it to inspect the contents. When she realizes it's all there she just turns and walks out. No thank you. Nothing. TL. DL I could be typing this on a new MacBook Pro. Since she was dumb enough to leave a new laptop for more than a half hour and got it back, I'm guessing she didn't learn a lesson. She'll probably forget it somewhere again and get taught a lesson. High five for being awesome. Thank you for being a good person. I lent a very good friend about $500. His parents were fairly well off and I knew his parents sent him a huge check every birthday because we would always travel right after he got the check. Annual $10K gift parents are allowed to distribute tax-free to their kids, so I knew I would get it back in a few weeks. Being mindful, I told him under no uncertain terms that this was a loan and expected to be paid back by X date, period. He agreed. Well, payback date came and passed and nothing yet. His birthday was about 2 weeks after, so I waited until after his birthday. Still no check. I called him on it and asked what happened. I got lie after lie. First his checking account was compromised, then he needed to order checks. Then he was waiting for his parents' check to arrive. He even went as far as sending me a check on a closed account. Stupid, because I knew from talking to him the account was closed and he didn't bank there anymore and it had his old address on it from 2 years ago. I asked him why he would send me a check on a closed account and I got yelled at for not being a good friend and not being supportive of his problems. I was very nice to him until this point, but I'll let him have it. I'm not a good friend. I send you $500 so you can pay your rent and don't say a word for weeks and you say I'm not supportive? A good friend would pay me back without the lies and forcing me to call you and ask you for the money. I had a check in the mail the same week and haven't talked to him since. P. If you're reading this, frick you. I helped 2 guys out of a crushed car, putting my life in danger as gas was spilling. They ran away as soon as I got them out. Turns out the car was stolen and the police were onto them. The cops found me on top of the car holding the door open and arrested me. Spent the night in jail for that good deed. Another time I worked in a restaurant at the beach. As I was closing, I see a child wandering around crying. I abandoned my work and stayed with her for 4 hours or something, calling the cops, trying out numbers she thinks she remembers, etc. When the cops and the parents finally come, they start interrogating me like I kidnapped her or something. After some time I got angry and started shouting and they just told me to go away. Not even a thank you or anything. Another time a guy in front of me at the ATM machine left a full wallet on the machine and walked away. I was not paying attention to him, so I didn't even notice what he was wearing. So I took the wallet into the bank and explained at the counter what happened. There is a wad of cash in there. I say I have to leave but was asked politely at first that I have to stay until they contact the owner. I say I have to leave, I had something important to do. Instead the security guys detain me for like 30 minutes until the owner shows up. He says everything in there. I am just standing there. Nobody told him that I found it. They just told me you can leave now. I had dreadlocks all these times and my skin color is of the darker kind. Maybe played a role, maybe not. I just continue doing good when I can and most of the times it is appreciated. Frick that classmate, man. You can't help everyone. Was at the mall and some little boy came up to me saying, can you help find my mommy? I walked him over to the security desk and had them paged her. She showed up 30 minutes later and then got all uppy at me, acting like I was some kind of weird pedophile. She stormed off with her unfortunate son, but not before he yelled thanks mister to me. I feel bad for that kid. This is why when I found someone's bank card lying in the street, I picked it up, handed it in at the bank the next day and got out of there quickly. I didn't want to be arrested for stealing, for helping some poor student out who had lost their card. Obviously a student. It had been lost outside of the uni nightclub. Writing this as the witness of the Punishers. So my boyfriend and I just graduated and were, naturally, receiving some cards in the mail. Some with money, some without, whatever. Anyways, my boyfriend has this grandpa who inherited a lot of money way back when and has since lost most of it in the stock market. The family always rants about how he doesn't give a crap about them and tries to milk him for money. He bought their 2 cars before he lost a lot of his money. My boyfriend received a card from him with no money in it, laughed at the snarky message, money is fleeting, knowledge is power, and seemed happy enough. A few days later, his mom is making a list of everyone who sent him cards. She even writes down how much each person sent as if that would determine the extent of her thank you, and compares the amounts. When the grandpa comes up and she remembers he didn't send any money, she doesn't write his name down. Apparently she planned to only send thank yous to the people who sent cash. She and her husband then proceeded to bitterly remark, with the biggest eye rolls possible, that, since the grandpa had decided to help pay for my boyfriend's college education, they guess that made up for it. As someone who hasn't seen or heard from my grandparents and the majority of my extended family since I was 5 due to family pettiness, I was p. When I was about 17, a gust of wind ripped my car door out of my hand and into the car that I was parked next to. I went into the store and had the manager call for the owner of the car using description and license plate number. No one came forward. I went back out to the parking lot and waited for the owner to show. When the owners arrived, I told them I was sorry that I had dinged the side of their door. I showed them the small dent and offered to exchange insurance information. The wife was a straight up B. She started huffing and puffing, walking around her car and finding other dents in her fender, rear quarter panel, places that it would have been impossible for my door to have caused damage. I told her that I did not cause the other dents and she should be lucky that I was an honest person, as most people would have just found another parking spot and not told her at all. Her husband came to my rescue and calmed her down and explained to her how I could not have caused the other dents. He even opened up my door to show her it wasn't possible. She went on and wanted to exchange insurance info. Her husband ushered her into their car and told me to just go. He said he wasn't worried about the dent I caused and thanked me for being so honest. As they were pulling away, his wife glared at me until they were out of sight. That sucks, man. I have a few of one of my ex-best friends taking advantage. One that comes to mind is he was behind on some money and I let him borrow my netbook to Skype with his wife while he went overseas. It ended up getting smashed or broken somehow, and he wasn't able to pay me back when he returned. But he had bought himself a new laptop and tons of stuff for himself before paying me a dime. I also let him borrow my $360 while I was overseas so his kid and him could play since it was just going to be sitting in a garage somewhere. I never saw that thing again, because evidently it was stolen. That's just a few things of a whole laundry list of things I've done for this dude. But I think a lot of it was my own fault for not being more mindful of him and how he exploited my weakness towards helping friends out. I managed to get a $100 out of him for my netbook. It cost around $250, and that was about the end of our friendship. I have a hard time doing good deeds for people after what happened. This was a huge scandal in China a while back when I was living in Shanghai. An elderly lady was crossing the street and was hit by a guy on a scooter. She fell down, was injured while the man who hit her drove off. A man nearby saw what happened and came over to help her up and offered to take her to a hospital. The old lady freaked out and started accusing the man of hitting her, which he didn't. Her reasoning was, why are you offering to help me if you didn't knock me down in the first place? She pressed charges and took him to court, and it was a media frenzy in China. I don't know what actually happened from the court case, since you know the Chinese tend to make news stories mysteriously disappear if it gains too much attention. I'm a female education major and I work part-time at a retail store in the mall. A little boy of about 3 left his mother and was running into the crowded food court. And it was Black Friday in my low-income area, so there were a lot of freaking people. I yelled for his mom, but she was in the dressing room, so I ran out and grabbed him before he could get lost in the crowd of people. When I walked back in the store, the woman charged at me. As I explained that he had run out of the store, there was no way she didn't know what I was doing. Took the kid out of my hands, grabbed my ponytail, got in my face, and screamed at me for touching her son. Then she went into a rant about how white people need to stop trying to save black babies and that the white man didn't know what was best for black kids. Her speech was strewn with profanity and she was yanking my hair the whole time. My boss called security but was otherwise useless, and not a single customer did anything. I didn't fight back because she had a child in her arms. She was larger, and people in the area have been known to carry knives. Anyway, a security guard showed up. She was later arrested and faced assault charges. Crap parent, rude, violent and a racist. Quality human being right there. When I was in the army, my barracks roommate loaned his car to another guy to drive into town. We were on a week of 14-hour shifts, and he wasn't going to be needing his car anyway, so he said he'd get the keys back from him at the end of the week. So eventually Carlos, my roommate, tracks the guy down and says, I need to get my keys back from you. The guy tells him, oh, your crappy car broke down, so I had to leave it and take a bus back. Carlos says, okay, so where is my car? The guy says, how should I know, probably towed by now. The guy couldn't be bothered to tell Carlos that his car broke down. Couldn't even be bothered to make a note of where he'd left it, I dunno, downtown somewhere, and actually blamed Carlos for his crappy car wasting his time. The kicker was Carlos had just bought the car and the signed title was in the glove box. He had no idea what the license number was, or VIN, and the car wasn't registered in his name yet. He never got the car back. That guy found the title and sold the car and kept the money. Never keep your title in the glove box, kids. This happened a while back. I had a friend. He was a foster child. He came to my house a lot. We hung out for a few years. My mom took him places like local amusement parks, pools, parks, etc. I changed schools and slowly stopped hanging out. A year or so goes by since I've seen him. He shows up at my door out of the blue. We talk a little bit reminiscence about the past. He leaves after a half hour or so. Next week I'm sleeping, hear the doorbell. I look to see him out the window, so I open the door. Next thing I know, he punched me in the face and knocks me to the ground, holds a knife to me. At this time another person who I had not seen when I looked out comes in with a gun. I tell them I'm not fighting back. He ties me up, robs me and says how he hates me and how it's my fault for this. I asked what I had done. He tells me I had shown him what a good life was and he knew he could never have it. He punches me a couple times more, then leaves me tied up to a pole in my basement. I of course got out and called the police. He got arrested. The second guy never did. All I ever did to him was try to be a friend and he did that to me. I can't get how some people can be so evil. You're lucky to be alive and unharmed. When home invasions spill over from purely economic to being motivated by that kind of hate, bad things happen to people. At the age of 14ish, me and a friend were outside a jewelry store. We looked at a showcase, and just for fun I tried lifting the glass up, which turned out to be unlocked. We look at each other, and decide to tell them. We enter the big scary jewelry store, and tell the manager they forgot to lock it. She goes out, locks it, and looks at us with the meanest face, and asks, did you steal anything? We just say no and leave, quite shocked at that response. Hey, lady, this is unlocked so someone might steal something. Thought you should know. Oh, thank you. I hope you told us before someone did steal something. In a perfect world. This just happened a few days ago. I was standing in line at the Costco hot dog and chicken bake altar of deliciousness when the guy in front of me offered to let an older woman from the next line over go in front of him. He said, "Mom, you can go next over here." She said, "Are you sure?" He said, "Yes, go right ahead." She says, "Well, not with all this hostility around here." Then she stormed off out of line, never even purchasing whatever tasty treat it is that miserable old hags gets at the Costco snack counter. Probably a child's soul and a Coke. The poor guy turns around and looks at me with this pained look on his face. I said, "Dude, I saw it too. I don't know what happened. This fellow tried to do something nice for an old lady, and in return she ruined his whole day." If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.